everybody's sound like having a good time talking this evening, so good to hear everybody talking. So go ahead and get started. I'll start, I guess, with the announcements. So I got this from the back there, and I did find one error. I had the Christmas dinner on a Tuesday at noon, so I didn't figure that was going to happen.
She just looked at the wrong month.
So anyway, this coming Sunday is the Veterans Brunch in the Activity Building at noon after service. November the 15th is Wednesday, Surviving the Holidays. Bob's classroom, is that, where's Bob at? That's Wednesday night. Oh,
that's next Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So that's just that's a special thing.
Yeah, what it is Surviving the Holidays. It's a part of Grief Share. It's a special one session class.
So part of Grief Share.
Yeah.
On Wednesday the 15th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, it's open for anyone, even if you're not participating in Grief Share and feel like you want to just have this one session about surviving the holidays.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Good. Then the next Saturday, the 18th, Ladies Craft Day in the Activity Building at 11 a.m. Sunday, the 19th, Ladies Bible Study in the Activity Building at 6 p.m. The following Wednesday, the 22nd. Oh, no Wednesday service because Thanksgiving. And on the Sunday, the 26th, no Grief Share because of Thanksgiving. Sunday, the 26th also is the Hanging of the Greens at 6 p.m. So here, Hanging of the Greens at 6 p.m. And then even going...
So we'll need help bringing everything up right after service. I know that's also communion.
So we're going to have communion on the 26th, and those who can stick around to help bring up the stuff getting ready for the Hanging of the Greens, stick around after morning service to help bring it upstairs. If we get a bunch of people, it shouldn't take very long to bring it up. Moving on into December the 2nd, which is a Saturday, is the Food Pantry to knock, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sunday the 3rd, Book Club in the Activity Building at 6 p.m. And did he say? I thought he said.
I think he's canceling until
the book club.
After.
Yeah, I don't think the book club is going to happen in December. I thought he said.
Yeah, you're right. It's not.
So scratch that. So no book club. Sunday the 10th, the second Sunday in December, Christmas dinner, Activity Building, 12 p.m.
Boy, that's coming.
Oh yeah, I gotta take it
Sure.
off. Sorry. Okay, I'll take it off.
So anyway, that is our activities or announcements. Does anybody else have any other announcements? Anyone?
There is a sign up out there for the Veterans Brunch.
Sign up out in the foyer for the Veterans Brunch, which again this coming Sunday. So maybe if you haven't signed up for something, want to, and for those online, you could call into maybe the office and ask a person to something to pitch in with. All right. So, anyone have any prayer requests? Anyone? Get it in, record rate.
So Jenny had her procedure yesterday, and now we're waiting on the pathology reports to come back. We've got an appointment next Thursday. Probably have the results then.
Waiting for results. Anybody else? Prayer requests?
James, I'm going to request prayer for Tom tomorrow. He is going to be with Stephanie at school all day talking about being a veteran, each one of her classes. And the last time he was there, God bless him, he got a dizzy spell, and it was the sick kind. And all the kids were in the room, and it wasn't real pleasant
I have a trash can. I have a trash can.
And we had to take him out in a wheelchair. It was not a pretty sight. But thank the Lord, he's not had a spell all week.
We're up to third period.
And he's going to go tomorrow. So
All
we
seven
pray that-
periods, all 7 periods.
Yeah, he can stay there the whole day and not get sick.
We'll pray, but keep your puke bucket with you.
Take Pete bucket.
That's my funny change. I
Just
will.
take Pete bucket.
Let's go snacking, Tom.
Judy said KP means keep puking. That's a good one.
Lyle and Becky.
What did you say? Still recovering. You taught us.
No, I only moved here recently. I could not, especially recently.
Yes.
I hear you're on.
Yeah, I've been here.
Okay, no.
Yeah, I know all that, yeah.
Anyone else have any? So, we'll go ahead and have prayer at the beginning here instead of the, I think I've heard some.
James, we need to remember Jenny too, because her blood pressure isn't perfect yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Wait till you get over there.
And Michelle, how are you doing?
Really tired, so even though the COVID wasn't bad,
Yeah.
I'm back to just like being exhausted. Not as bad as I was in August, but still, so just having conversation is really tiring.
Yeah.
But at least she's big enough, I can go to work.
Yeah, I slept on the floor in the living room twice with the dogs today. That's bad,
Yeah.
just like the doggies lay down by me to take a nap.
All right, so, dear Father, we thank you for allowing us all to come here this evening, allowing us to come in here as we're gathering together, hearing everybody talking and have a good time. It's great to hear people having a good time and fellowshipping in the house of the Lord. So we're just so thankful for that we're able to do that, even with our elements and things that we have going on. It's just great to have a chance to come in here and just hear your word and be with those who want to hear your word and just be able to share and laugh and sometimes just have a good time here in the Lord's house. So we first will give some prayers for the request we just had. Jenny, waiting for the results of her test on Thursday. So just be with her, just touch her body, let that be a good report, and we'll praise you whatever happens. Tom, be with Tom tomorrow in school. Let him be an inspiration to the little kids he's going to be in front of. Help him make it through the day, a long day, and just give him strength and just be with him as he goes with that. And Stephanie, play for Lyle and Becky. And like there, we've got 2 names there. So just remember we got the people who has a element or whatever's going on, be with those who's around them and helping them through that time, whether it's physical, mental, just be with both. And so Lyle and Becky, as Lyle gets better, be with Jenny and her blood pressure issue, just help that, touch her body and let her go through that. Be with Michelle, she's recovering as well. Be with me tonight as I bring the message. Just anybody out there that might be on the internet, just be with them as they're watching tonight. If they have any issues that need a special touch, just be with them and let them know that you're there. And again, just thank you for letting us be here this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. So Isaiah 3, 4, 5. Really 5. So the question, I think the questions that Pastor sent out to you and gave to me are actually from chapter 5, but so we did read through 3 and 4 because we finished up chapter 2 the last time. So 3 in my NIV Bible that I have here, the title on the title they give to 3 was Judgment on Jerusalem and Judah. And over in chapter 4, the branch of the Lord, that was actually the subtitle above verse 2, the branch of the Lord. It was a short chapter. And now chapter 5. So as you all, I think you also, if you saw what Pastor sent out to everyone, so Isaiah, a song of injustice, a song. And I had the Song of the Vineyard, and because I was using a couple different Bibles as I was reading through and studying, and so one of them had, as in my Bible here has, so the pastor has the Song of Injustice. My Bible has the Song of the Vineyard. I saw somewhere you could also see this. So if Isaiah wrote this as a song, and I also tried to think of this, singing this as I was reading it, think of it as a song. It didn't work for me. maybe in the old language it would work better, but it just did not work as a song. I tried to think, nope, nothing, not happening. But I also thought of it as a parable, because you got the parable of the vineyard, and also a parable of judgment. So within the song, and then also wrote Isaiah on the whole Isaiah in a whole, trusting God in troubled times. But so many modern songs are about real or perceived injustices. Why are these protests often cast in the form of songs? Does anybody have any thoughts on why? Why are these cast in the form of songs? I'm thinking songs can and will usually stir up strong emotions. So I think Isaiah is probably trying to do that here. He's wanting to kick people in the tail and say, hey, we're messing this up, and what do we need to do? So he's probably trying to stir up some strong emotions. The lyrics, that usually the lyrics are what brings the message that the writer's trying to do. The writer of the song, or they're trying and like I think that next thing. The writer author will try to motivate the listener to take action or change their current actions. Just sort of some notes I put down on some why do we hear a lot of things in songs.
James, when I was teaching my first graders, we would do a lot of our rules to math or rules to reading with a song, and the kids remembered them.
Help memorization, right? Yeah. Yeah, I probably everybody in here could probably think of something that they remembered through song. I know I know when we were doing the counties, I remember in like whatever grade that was, I could do all the counties of West Virginia too.
Oh, yeah.
Mine's the days of the months, 30 days has November.
We still do it, yeah.
And I sing that all the time when I go to 31.
So in a similar vein, recall a song, sacred or secular, which has deeply moved you. Why and in what direction? A couple I thought about. So Amazing Grace. I just, and from when I was a kid, it just seemed like Amazing Grace, where I heard it the most, was always in funerals. At funerals, that was a very popular funeral song for what it says, the message. I guess we'll call this secular side the national anthem. So that brings up a lot of emotion. Anybody else have any other songs that
What a friend we have in Jesus.
How great thou art.
So many of our hymns just have an expression of how we feel or what we're going through, or how great is our God.
And for us here, Country Roads come up.
I was waiting on Tom.
That was all, I heard actually was in the Philippines. This guy singing on stage, sang Country Roads.
in the Philippines?
In the Philippines,
How
yeah.
about Silent Night? our
Yeah, I'm
Christmas
signed with Walmart.
carols.
Yeah, even kids, when they start, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff, they just makes you think of Christmas or whatever. There's other things, other songs. But definitely, so that's, I'm gonna guess that, and that's throughout the Bible, a lot of the stuff, as you look at the headings of them, you'll see it saying a song of David or whatever, or just, so evidently they did use a lot of songs so a lot of the Bible, even though it's just written words that we normally read like a book, probably a lot of it were songs.
Remember when we marched, we sang songs.
Some we probably wouldn't
King
repeat.
Cadence, King Cadence.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Some of them were not worth it.
No,
That's
some
what
of them
James
I
says,
can't
most
repeat here.
of them we will not be singing here.
So I was in basic training
Yeah.
30, however many years ago, and I still, when I'm out walking or whatever, I still sing
Drives me
cadences.
Yes, they are.
insane.
When we were at the World Quiz for children's quizzing in June out at General Assembly, I had never been to a General Assembly before. So that was a really new experience for me to be in a worship service with thousands of Nazarenes. It was pretty cool. There was a song that I had not heard before then, but I loved it, and it's called The Blessing. But it's a worship song, but it's just talking about how, God's blessing is on families for your children. May your children be blessed for generations and generations after them. And to hear thousands of people singing that, it just it made me cry. It was beautiful. So I came home and I downloaded it because I loved it.
It's a great song.
It was really awesome.
I think I heard and listened to Chris, and then when they came back from NYC, it sounded like some of the moments, probably more emotional moments, happened during the praise songs, and I know so on a much smaller level, going to Blast or at Field Blast at Mount Vernon. That's some of the things you remember the most, is some of the times when you're doing stuff in song.
And this sounds done, has absolutely nothing to do with church or with God and worship, but I'm a history teacher, so every time I hear we didn't start the fire, I love it, because I think it amazes me how Billy
Yes.
Joel could write that with all of these events in history,
Yes.
and I read that he never cracked open a history book, that it just all came from his head. So, I don't know, I love that, and you start thinking about all these historical events, and that stirs up emotion too.
And hearing certain songs takes you to a certain place at a certain time.
Right.
That's very
Sitting on the bottom of the bed.
So the setting of this chapter of Isaiah was probably during the grape harvest, because of the subject, the parable of the vineyard he's using. A famous time for conversation and conviviality. Isaiah uses a short parable to rouse his friends' consciences, and then with mounting vehemence, he attacks certain sins directly. So it gets people's attention with the song, but then he also lets it rip and says, "Here's what we're doing wrong," and what things we got to watch for. So let's go ahead and read. Let's go ahead and read chapter 5. So, chapter 5. I will sing for the one I love, a song about his vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up and cleared it of stones and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower in it and cut out a winepress as well. Then he looked for a crop of good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done for my vineyard than I have done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do with my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it will be destroyed. I will break down its wall, and it will be trampled. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the nation of Israel. The people of Judah are the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but saw bloodshed, for righteousness, but heard cries of distress. Woe to you who add house to house and join field to field till no space is left, and you live alone in the land. The Lord Almighty has declared in my hearing, surely the great houses will become desolate. The fine mansions left without occupants. A 10-acre vineyard will produce only a bath of wine. A homer of seed will yield only an ephah of grain. Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drinks, who stay up late till they are inflamed with wine. They have harps and lyres at banquets, pipes and timbrels and wine, but they have no regard for the deeds of the Lord, no respect for the work of his hands. Therefore, my people will go into exile for lack of understanding. Those of high rank will die of hunger, and the common people will be parched with thirst. Therefore, death expands its jaws, opening wide its mouth. Into it will descend their nobles and masses, with all their brawlers and revelers. So people will be brought low, and everyone humbled, the eyes of the arrogant humbled. But the Lord Almighty will be exalted by his justice, and the holy God will be proved holy by his righteous acts. Then sheep will graze as in their own pasture. Lambs will feed among the ruins of the rich. Woe to those who draw sin along with cords of deceit, and wickedness as with cart ropes. To those who say, let God hurry, let him hasten his work so we may see it. The plan of the Holy One of Israel, let it approach, let it come into view so we may know it. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
Sounds like today, doesn't it?
All right. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine and champions at mixing drinks, who acquit the guilty for a bribe and deny justice to the innocent. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straw, and as dry grass sinks down in the flames, so their roots will decay and their flowers blow away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore the Lord's anger burns against his people. His hand is raised and he strikes them down. The mountains shake and the dead bodies are like refuse in the street. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. He lifts up a banner for the distant nations. He whistles for those at the ends of the earth. Here they come, swiftly and speedily. Not one of them grows tired or stumbles. Not one slumbers or sleeps. Not a belt is loosened at the waist. Not a sandal strap is broken. Their arrows are sharp. All their bows are strung. Their horses' hooves seem like flint. Their chariot wheels like a whirlwind. Their roar is like that of a lion. They roar like young lions. They growl as they seize their prey and carry it off with no one to rescue. And that day they will roar over it like the roaring of the sea. And if one looks at the land, there is only darkness and distress. Even the sun will be darkened by clouds. So, sounds pretty bleak there, especially at the end. All right, so choosing carefully the occasion form, a love song. So in the notes Pastor gave, this is called a love song. I wouldn't want to send this one to Teresa. Isaiah introduces the subject of Dear Friend's Vineyard. Describe the care that was lavished on the vineyard and the owner's dismay when the final product was only evil-smelling, bitter, wild grapes. So,
He cleared the land of stones. And he planted it, and then he put a watchtower up to keep an eye on it.
all right.
Beautiful grounds.
And one of the notes I had, so have you, and so describe the care that was lavished on the vineyard and the owner's dismay when the final product was evil, bitter, and great. So I was thinking here, have you ever put your own, blood, sweat, and tears? We hear. Have you ever put your own blood, sweat, and tears into a big project? Get it all. This is going to be great, and then it was a flop. Just for it to fail or turn out not the way you had hoped it was going to turn out. So it sounds like that's probably what he was thinking here, or how the parable is letting it, that his friend is put all this care and like you said, put in the wine press, the watchtower,
Mowed the soil, pulled the weeds, planted the very best vines.
So put everything into it,
The
and
vineyard would be Israel. And what Israel rejected and dishonored God, this is what happened. These are the woes.
right.
And it was supposed to be a land full of large grapes and milk and honey.
So and like she was saying, it was representing Israel and Judah, or Jerusalem, and just things didn't go the way we were planned, and just so everything's.
And God gave them chances, and every time they rejected.
Give them all. So you're getting all you need here, and it's just going to waste because you're not taking advantage of what you have. So. I'm gonna try to sort of follow the thing here, but a lot of this just sort of mixes together. But so on number 2, verse 3 and 5, both beginning with the word now, invite the listener's verdict on the vineyard. What is the owner's decision about what to do with the vineyard? So he's going to remove all forms of protection, right? Bring down the wall, bring down, and just let it go to waste.
He asks, can you think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do?
Right. So it had everything that anyone could want and nothing. So he's just going to let it go to waste. I'm dropping my protection. You're on your own. So if you don't
Well, it sounds like a cry, like a parent would to a child. A child who's gone astray, who's not taking the path that a parent may think they should take. And I'm not talking about choosing a career or whatever. I'm just talking about kids who went down paths that are destructive paths that lead to nothing but trouble. For a child, when you're in the midst of it, and the kid tells you they hate you and they despise you, and it's they don't want to have nothing to do with you, and you think to yourself, I've done all of this for my child. I've fed them, I've clothed them, I've loved them, I've treated them fairly, I've treated them kindly, I've been hard on them, I've punished them as needed. But what I'm saying, and you've done all these things, but yet the child still rejects what you've done, and it chooses a path that is contrary to what you've raised them to be. You as a parent sit there and think, and you say it to yourself, obviously, a lot, but then you say it to the child at times too. What more could I have done? How much more could I have showed you how much I loved you? How much more could I have showed you that what I'm doing is protecting you and trying to keep you safe? What more could I have done to show you that what I've set forth before you is putting you on a path that will hopefully lead to something good for you in your life. And it's that cry of a parent's heart to a child that I see in that scripture, and it's and whether the kid's good or whether the kid's bad or whatever, you have those moments where you feel that way,
right.
It's when you go through, but when you do have a child that really goes the path that is of destruction, that you really cry out the most for them because they've rejected you, or at least you feel like they've rejected you. And it turns out they probably haven't rejected you as much as they have chosen a path or whatever that's maybe beyond their control point where they don't know how to get out of it. But it's still a thought in your mind and your heart that just cries and says, I don't know what else to do. I don't, I can't love you any more than I've shown you. So, not that that's the voice of experience or anything.
Doesn't sound like
Because sometimes, well, and it sounds like here, they've actually said, I'm just dropping my protection. I don't know if they've had it and can do no more, they put all they had into trying to protect their child, their nation, whatever. And
well, that's the other part of it as a parent. You know, when you go down the path that we've me and my wife have been through, you get to a point where you're just saying, okay, I'm done. I can't do anymore. I can't love you anymore. I can't care about you anymore. And you know what? I'm just going to have to back off and put it in God's hands and just let him handle it. And you know what? Whatever happens, happens. And I mean, and pray that not the worst thing could happen.
And like where you said, you turned it over to God. I'm getting the feeling that some of these people, they're
No, they're not. But I can see the parallel.
Right.
I can see the parallel,
absolutely.
because because it's. But there comes a point where you just have to say, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to bail you out no more. I'm not going to help you out. I'm not going to give you any more money. I'm not going. If you go hungry and homeless, there's nothing I can do. And I'll be honest with you all that one of the worst moments that I ever experienced. Me and my wife and I think Olivia was with us too. Was when and this was before we got guardianship with Jaden and Hardy, but was when we had to drop Jaden and Hardy and their mom off to the mission, not here, but in Huntington. It was devastating. It was devastating, because we had no control over it. All we had control over was going to help her to move her stuff over there, but we had no control of taking them, and we knew what was going, we knew what was going on, but it just broke our hearts. I mean, that ride home was one of the longest rides we'd ever taken home. A lot of tears, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, and you just to the point have to say, okay, yeah, and that's all you can do. And glory to God, it's worked out the way it has. But it's unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way for everybody.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Number 3. So dropping the disguise of the parable, Isaiah rams home the lesson to his people directly in verse 7, which I'll read verse 7. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty is the nation of Israel, as Lois was saying, and the people of Judah are the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but saw bloodshed, for righteousness, but heard cries of distress. And so contrast what God looked for among his people with what he found. So, and sort of like what Jeff said, you're doing everything, or we're just trying our best to get the best outcome of our family or our loved ones here, his nation, his people. And so what happened? He was expecting the best, and bloodshed and distress. So and like the grapes, wanting nice good grapes, get nothing but bitter fruit. So there's probably the contrast of the parable. You're wanting and hoping and praying for the best, but sometimes you just don't get. You get the sour grapes, or you. So look for justice, saw bloodshed. Look for righteousness, heard cries of distress. That's what I had. Have you ever been in a situation to which you needed to confront a friend with with inconsistencies in his or her lifestyle, what happened. I put in parentheses at the start of my, before I wrote anything down, I just put very hard. If you're trying, and I put, and it might even be easier with your own child, doing something to your own, you're trying to correct or guide your own child versus telling a friend, what happened. So sometimes I put, it can make you feel hypocritical going to say, hey, I see this happening, and because I've said something to someone before, but knowing, I'm not perfect, and I have my faults. It just so happens you're trying to help someone out and say something, and trying to help them out. So I have said stuff to someone before, but it's definitely not easy. So I don't know if anybody has anything to share on that. I was sort of coming up a little weak on an answer on this one, but that can be a hard thing going in front of another person to say, hey, I see this problem. You need help, and that might be the way to make it easier, is asking them if they need help rather than just flat out saying, here's what you're doing wrong. There's definitely easy ways probably to go about it. Does anybody have any examples of where they had to confront someone and turn out good, bad, other? Anyone?
After our first Westpac, we came home for about 6 months, and then we got a bunch of new recruits on board, straight out of school and boot camp. We got a couple in our shop, and we took off for our second Westpac, and which is Indian Ocean, Western Pacific. And there's one guy on there, I was probably about 20, 21, 22 at the time, and he was like 17, 18 years old. And we got over to the Philippines and Korea and everything, and he started going crazy. And the party, he messed up, they wouldn't show up for muster in the morning, roll call, what do you call it, and then everything, and he was getting in trouble off base, out in the city and everything like that. So the whole shop did an intervention, more or less, before that was even popular. And we took him aside, and we all talked to him, and I was leading, pretty much the leader of the shop at that time, and I told him, if you don't start getting your stuff together, you're going to be in worse trouble than you ever want to be. And I pretty much at that point took him under our wing, and whenever he went out, I went out with him. He didn't leave my side, so for the rest of that tour, overseas tour and everything, and he came back home, he was fine, but he was heading for big trouble, and it took all of us in the shop, about 7 of us. It took us all to get him back in line. But it was hard because he thought that, hey, I'm just, 17, I'm just, young guy, I can go out and do what I want. And he just went nuts, out there, because it was party town. At that time, in the early 80s, it was party over there. That's what you did. And we'd seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And he was heading for the ugly part.
So I guess that's one way of approach then, is to not go by yourself. And I think that's what Scripture says actually is, tell someone and help them, but resist, these are my own paraphrasing, resist getting proud yourself, because it says resist unless you fall into sin, because you're telling somebody something they're doing wrong, and then you're like, oh, well, I'd never do that. Like, yeah, right. Okay, so if that doesn't work, then you're picking up somebody else to take with you as support. And that kind of sounds like what you and your team did.
Yeah.
I think it's important to put these things in our mind, because I think that we face situations like this, and sometimes I think they come up unexpectedly. And I was talking in Sunday school the other day about that very thing. If you consistently make good decisions situations like this will be familiar to you, and these things will come to your mind. You know, first tell your friend. You know, I try not to worry about, gee, I messed up too. Because what's it gonna, what are you gonna gain if you both sink? You'll never get your words out, and your friend, you'll lose a friend. So the love conquers all fear, all right? Love conquers all fear. You love that friend. Whether you're perfect or whether you're not perfect, still share the truth and love, okay? Then take the next person, and then if all else blows, talk to the church.
Well, I think that, you know, what helped us out is everybody that was in that shop, because the only new guy in there, had been there, you know, already. A couple guys that are older, was older than me, but, you know, they've been there a couple times. And we're seeing that, bringing the kids, you know, Dad, you just don't know. Or, Dad, that's not how it works nowadays. And it really, anything the kids are going through right now hasn't changed too much from what we've experienced, you know. And Jenny and I being older than what, you know, somebody has 14 and 15-year-old kids would be, we've seen more than our share of, you know, of different things that these kids are going through. And we can, you know, and so it's hard for us to sit down and say, look, we've seen this, we've known this, we did this, and everything. And then they come back with, but you don't understand, it's different now. That's not really. It might be different in your aspect of doing it, but it comes out, it plays out the same way.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing right there.
Somewhere else in here, I'll have, when we get to it, but there's a question on here about things that happened back then, back 2,000 years ago versus now. Things still a lot of stuff, same things happen. Number 5, give examples of ways in which God has lavished his care on you or your society, only to be rewarded by a bitter harvest. You know, one of the things I was thinking, so as a youth leader or a mentor to someone young, you know, you could try your best and think you're doing a great job of instructing, leading, advising a young person, and you know, trying to live in a way that you feel will be pleasing to God. But however, sometimes no matter how well you feel you did, the youth are going to make some poor life decisions. And sort of, you know, what Jeff's saying, you've done your best. You think, and Jeff's situation a little bit different. But if you're in a youth group, whatever, everyone seems to be on track, everything's great. Next thing you know, there's what happened to so and so, and that just might blow your mind that you know, you thought everyone was just such nice little angels there in your class, and then to find, oh, they did what?
Well, take heart, because the word of God never returns void. You know,
but it can still make you doubt yourself.
Yeah.
As you know.
But it wasn't about you. It was about that person. So, you know, if you're teaching a person, you're reaching out to them. They may go through some really rough places. And it's easy. It can happen to anyone. Anyone can go through some really rough places, okay? But take heart, because your input is not going to fall void. It won't fall to the ground.
Right. Now on verses 8 through 23, fall into 6 sections introduced by the word woe. So what are the sins described in each of these sections? So in verse 8, woe to the one that add house to house. And what's it talking about there? You know, greedy land grabbers, taking all the land for themselves, you know, leaving nothing for the poor. So woe to those people who are just gobbling up land, don't care about anybody else. I just want to have it all. So woe to those who add house to house, field to field. I think it might have said also. Verse 11, woe to those drinking and now I might be I'm paraphrasing some of this. I put drinking and partying. Pretty much is what I think they're doing in verse 11. Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drink, stay up late at night until they're inflamed with wine. So drinking and partying. leads to ruin normally. Usually not too much good comes out of drinking. So lead to ruin, just a waste of your time. The third woe, verse 18. Woe to those who draw sin along cords of deceit. Draw sins along cords of deceit. Or parading their sin before God like they have no cares. I realized that was almost sort of like a parable within a parable, or no, maybe not necessarily a parable. What's the word? Metaphor there, maybe, or whatever. That I don't know if anybody else.
Mine says doom instead of woe, but doom to you who use lies to sell evil and who haul sin to the market by the truckload.
So they're just sins all. They don't care how much sin they have. They're just letting all their sin be right out on parade.
You know, something like what you said about, like in the beginning when you were talking about songs, and like I'm looking at this, you know, about how they're adding their house to the house, their field to their field. I mean, they want. It just, and you're talking about being that person who tells somebody else, like, hey, you know, I don't know what you'd say to that person, but basically what you're saying to them is wake up because you're heading down the wrong direction. That reminds me of like Nathan, David's advisor, King David's advisor. And David, I mean, he had how many wives, how many concubines, how much, and he murdered someone to get that person's wife. And then, you know, it's talking about falling to the ground. I mean, God has given David everything. You know, then it looks down here and it says, death extends its jaws, opening wide its mouth. And when I think about that little baby, you know, how he lost his little baby. So, I don't know, I think the story of David, of Nathan and Bathsheba and their child is pretty much descriptive in these verses right here. It's just like an almost...
So these verses, as I was thinking, it could be put on a lot of different scenarios in the Bible. So a lot of different things, you know, show people going the wrong way.
But David repented.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's still hope. There's always hope.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always hope when the Lord's involved. There's still always hope.
Praise God.
Yes.
So the fourth woe, calling evil good and good evil. You know, so justifying wrong is right. You know, just I guess that's sort of flat out what it is, saying
What it is today.
calling wrong right. Woe number 5, verse 21. Those who are wise in their own eyes. So but don't rely. You know, don't rely on our own wisdom or self-conceit, self-conceited. You know, our intelligence, our intellect is nothing compared to that of God. So don't be wise or self-conceited.
That's where our ego comes in.
All right. And the last woe listed on verse 22. I think it said something about heroes. I put those in high places. I think they used the word heroes, or my version of the Bible used heroes, so I'm saying someone in a high place, maybe leaders of some way, using drinking to lead to corruption and bribery. So woe to those folks that are using, you know, maybe getting people intoxicated to be able to.
Mine calls them champion boozers.
Champion boozers.
I like your word.
The message, champion boozers.
So those in high places using drinking. Yeah. Anybody have anything to add to the woes? There's definitely a lot of woes there, which just mean woe to them. These are bad news for these folks. 7. So what do these woes reveal about society at this time? And then I put A and B here, so B, how do you find your own society mirrored in these verses? So I have there are those that have no regard for the teachings of the Lord. They only care about the here and now. They're not thinking about how their actions will affect their eternity. But then, so that's, what do these woes reveal about society at that time? But the second part on B,
We haven't learned how.
so I put my first, what I wrote in B, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just, it's amazing how the Bible remains relevant for us today, for what we're reading there. It's really no different. We're messing up just the same.
We
The
haven't
Lord
learned
knows that.
anything.
And we got one of the most wealthy nations ever now, and we're just going down the same path as you see some of these others.
James, as we've been reading this, it keeps coming back to me. God gave them everything. God gave them everything they could want. But like you said, then they have to hoard it. They have to, buy out the little people. They're fighting over it. They're all abusing all the blessings that God gave them. That's what it is. They're abusing God's blessings, and they're not appreciating it, or they can get anything. God will give them everything they want, but then they have to have more. They don't appreciate what God gave it to them, and then they just abuse what He has, abusing the wine, abusing the wealth, abusing the people. They've completely lost sight.
Right, and we fall right into the same path and same errors and just
Developing idols.
right. Yeah, idol can be so
History repeats itself.
right. So number 8. How much? 5. Number 8. So what is the real objection to the conduct revealed in these verses, especially verses 12 and 24? So what was 12? 12. They have the harps and lyres at banquets, pipes and timbrels and wine, but they have no regard for the deeds of the Lord. So no regard for the deeds of the Lord. 24. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straw, and dry grass sinks down in the flames, so their roots will decay, and their flowers will be blown away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty, and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. So just total disregard for the Lord, actually.
So their roots are like the trees planted by the water that should have stood firm. That's their understanding. That's their faith. The flowers are their children. They just blow away like dust. So they've lost their past understanding of what life should be.
They just rejected His teaching.
And therefore, their future is destroyed as well.
That makes me appreciate Jesus all the more, because if I didn't have Him in my life, I would be like this. Thank the Lord that He called my name, and I heard Him, and I answered and invited Him in, or I would have been worse than I am now.
Yeah, I just plan what Nan said reminded me. These are your children. The blessings of God for faithful people go through generations, but the curses go through generations. It's not because God didn't do anything. It's because it's not my actions don't affect me. They affect my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. If I don't honor God, they don't honor God, and then we lose that. And that's what it's not God not giving blessings to people. It's because we've chosen to turn our backs, and therefore my actions affect everybody after me.
So 9, what punishment does the Lord announce in verses 9 and 10, 13, 17, 24, 25? So in verses 9 and 10, great houses will become desolate. Vineyard will not yield much harvest. Verse 13, 7 through 17, people, and I put what people, those with no understanding, will go into exile. Famine, there's going to be famine and thirst. The mighty and the arrogant will be humbled. 24 and 25, all they have will be destroyed like burned in a fire. Or it talks about earthquakes, people dying. The anger of the Lord remains strong. I wrote. So
Prophecy.
so all these things that they're wasting their time on is just going to
God's judgment.
go away.
Burning-
Yes.
Everything burns up and turns to dust.
Right now, the door's open for us to enter, but one of these days, God's going to close that door.
Because the one place it said he was there with his hand. I just get this feeling of him sitting here like ready to squish or whatever, because he just had these. Says he had his upraised hand. He lifts. Where did it say that? In verse 25. Yeah, for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. Is there? Number 10, the nation from afar, which God summons with a whistle in verse 26, is the world superpower of those days, Assyria. What impressions do you gain of their army in verses 26 through 30? So I just put, they're coming with a vengeance. And I put that as God's vengeance. So I think they're representing God's vengeance coming at those that are sinning. And nothing's going to stop them. Nothing's going to stop the Lord from teaching us a lesson. And as I was reading that section, it just like an army coming at you that's just so strong. There's not a sandal strap isn't broken. The arrows are sharp. They don't grow tired or stumble. It's a steamroller coming over, and you better get out of the way. But you can't. It's because they're going to bring their vengeance on you, and they're representing, I think, God's vengeance coming at those that are sinning.
The days of tribulation are coming.
And 11. If you're not rich and influential, you may be able to disassociate yourself from the sins described here, because it is talking about people high and mighty and doing things that they think they were going to get away with. But what ways do we have of ignoring God's works? Verse 12. So just no regard for the deeds of the Lord, and acting as if things are never going to change, least of all by divine intervention. Verse 19. Let God hurry, let him show us his works now. So, what ways do we have of ignoring God's works?
I think one of the strongest, I don't like to use the word strongest, so I don't know what word to put in there, but one of the biggest ways that we ignore the Lord's work, seems like we've got short memories. Like long ago, they used to, say to God's people, remember when he parted the Red Sea? Remember how he pulled you out of Egypt? Remember how he fed you for years and years, 40 years? Kadesh Barnea, that he kept them there. I mean, yes, they got tired of manna, yes, they got tired of quail, but they didn't go hungry. All right, and they were provided for. For us today, I think that same thing still exists. I think that all of us in this room have probably went through trials, struggles, tribulations, but I think it's very easy for us to forget the hand of God on our lives and how he pulled us through some really bad places, all right? And he was with us, and if we rejuvenate our memories, we may say, oh yeah, this is horrible today, this is bad today, but yeah, do we remember when God did this for us? Do we remember what it felt like when we were fearing the terror of the night, but our Lord God stayed with us, and he has never left us alone, as he has promised that he will never leave us and he will never forsake us.
So I had, no matter what our lot in life is, rich, poor, whatever, no matter what our lot in life is, we all have to follow his words and remember his words and teachings, or we'll find ourselves meeting the same fate as we see described here in Isaiah, when he's talking about, maybe some high and mighty folks there, but it doesn't matter what our lot in life is. We're all, if you don't follow the Lord, follow his teachings, remember what you're taught, we're going to all meet the same fate that it's talking about here.
We may not be wealthy and the richest people out there, but to be honest, there's always someone who has less than us.
Well, what is wealth?
That is, well,
Yeah, I mean, like, think about what it feels like to be at peace. How priceless is that?
But,
I mean, what if you have blobs of gold? Somebody's gonna come and try to take it from you, I guarantee it.
Our riches
But
are
it's-
in heaven.
but it's always
Yeah.
easy to be a victim and say someone's oppressing me, but we never take the time to look at who we are oppressing ourselves, because there's always someone under us who probably needs more than we do.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So the last line that Pastor had, I don't know if that was on the email that went out. Pray for one sweet fruit to grow in the vineyard of your life, which God has tended so lovingly. So we just have to always remember we have the ability to produce the good fruit of the Lord. It's just we got to remember the teaching, not let don't fall to these woes. Try to recognize if. And the other thing is we got to try to remember to have that where we're talking about going and have you talk to a friend. If you see a friend faltering or having troubles, try to reach out and help them. You never know how much you might remember from our teachings or things that we've been taught from. A lot of us have been in church since before we could talk, probably, and just remember all the things we've been taught and try to know that we do have the ability to help produce some good fruits. So never give up.
Amen.
Anybody have anything else to add? About 5 minutes after. All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you, James. You did a good job, James.
Thank you. Good to see you.